Welcome to our channel. Let's begin the journey.
Engineering behind one of humanity's absolute most powerful energy sources. We are going to explore the anatomy of a pressurized water reactor. We'll be looking at the thermodynamics, the ingenious fail-safes, and the fascinating physics that actually allow us to safely harness the raw power of nuclear fission. Here is our agenda for today. We'll start with inside the boiling cauldron, then anatomy of the core, followed by the primary coolant loop, controlling pressure, the pressurizer, the steam generator, and finally, the secondary power cycle. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, inside the boiling cauldron. Okay, so to really grasp how a pressurized water reactor, or a PWR, works, you've got to understand its brilliant two-loop separation. This is literally the fundamental engineering solution for safe nuclear power generation. You see, unlike a traditional coal plant where combustion directly boils water, a PWR completely isolates its heat source. We have a primary loop where the fluid stays entirely in a single liquid phase, and that's kept completely separate from a secondary loop, which is where the actual phase change to steam happens. Let's compare the PWR really quick to another common design, the boiling water reactor, so we can instantly appreciate the safety advantage here. In a boiling water reactor, the water literally boils right inside the core itself. That means that very same steam goes directly to drive the turbines, which means the steam itself can be radioactive. But in a PWR, the water in the core is kept under extreme pressure so it never boils. This is huge because it keeps the radioactive materials completely sealed off from the power-generating turbine. Moving right along to Section 2, anatomy of the core. I want you to think of this reactor vessel kind of like the ultimate stove in a massive central heating system. Inside this incredibly robust containment structure, slightly enriched uranium undergoes fission. This process releases massive, and I mean massive, amounts of thermal energy, and all that energy needs to be captured and moved safely. This really shows you the dense anatomy of that core. It's powered by uranium oxide fuel, safely clad in a special metal alloy called zircaloy. Your typical core contains about 150 to 200 of these fuel assemblies. And what's super elegant here is that ordinary light water flows through these assemblies, acting as both the coolant to carry the heat away and the moderator, slowing down neutrons so the fission chain reaction can continue. Together, this incredibly tight configuration generates a massive 1,000 to 1,200 megawatts of electricity. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the primary coolant loop. So we need to keep this water from boiling despite the intense heat of nuclear fission, right? To do that, the primary loop is maintained at an astonishingly high pressure. It operates at roughly 15 to 16 megapascals. To put that into everyday perspective for us, that is more than 150 times normal atmospheric pressure. It's absolutely wild. But that massive pressure is the magic trick of the PWR. It allows the light water coolant to soak up immense heat as it flows through the core, rising from an inlet temperature of 275 degrees Celsius all the way to an outlet temperature of 315 degrees Celsius. Because of that 16 megapascals of pressure we just talked about, it remains completely single-phase. It stays a liquid and never, ever turns into steam. As the water heats up on contact with the fuel elements, its density drops. So this heated water gains buoyancy and naturally just flows upward out of the reactor core in a highly efficient natural circulation loop. This is a brilliant safety feature, meaning that even if the primary pumps were to somehow fail, the fundamental laws of thermodynamics step in to help keep the water moving safely away from the hot core. Section 4, controlling pressure, the pressurizer. Let's break down the mechanics of the pressurizer, which is basically an elegant engineering solution that acts as the reactor's shock absorber. Say the core temperature increases. Well, the primary water's density decreases, causing it to expand and take up more room. This physically pushes the water level up inside the pressurizer, compressing a steam bubble at the very top, which spikes the loop's pressure. To counter this, cold water is literally sprayed directly onto the top of the steam bubble, instantly condensing it and swiftly bringing the pressure back down to safe operating levels. Conversely, let's see how the system reacts when the temperature drops. The water gets denser, takes up less space, and naturally the water level in the pressurizer drops. Instantly, built-in electric heaters at the bottom of the pressurizer kick on. They boil some of the water to create more steam, perfectly repressurizing the loop back to that crucial 16 megapascals. It is a constant, highly precise balancing act. And of course, as a failsafe, this primary loop is backed up by some very robust emergency core cooling systems. You've got high and intermediate pressure injections to force water in if the loop is still somewhat pressurized. But the most fascinating ones? The cold leg accumulators. These are tanks of borated water topped with a highly pressurized nitrogen bubble. If there's a sudden, significant pressure drop in the loop, that nitrogen bubble physically forces the emergency water into the core. The best part is, this requires absolutely zero electrical power to operate. It just works. Now let's look at Section 5, the steam generator. So this brings us to a really fascinating question, maybe the million-dollar question for the PWR's design architecture. If the primary water is kept under such intense pressure that it literally never boils, how on earth do we actually get the steam we need to generate electricity? Well, this is where the steam generator comes in. It functions like the radiator of our central heating analogy. It's the ultimate heat sink. The superheated, highly pressurized primary water flows through thousands of these inverted U-tubes inside the generator. Meanwhile, cooler, lower pressure water from the secondary loop flows around the outside of these tubes. The heat transfers right across the metal, but the fluids themselves, they never actually mix. Because that secondary water is kept at a much lower pressure, the intense heat radiating from those U-tubes causes it to undergo a rapid phase change. It aggressively boils into steam. Inside the generator, natural convection just takes over. Bubbles form, separate from the liquid at the top of the steam generator, and pure, high-energy steam rises up while the denser water flows back down to get reheated all over again. And finally, Section 6, the secondary power cycle. That newly created steam rushes straight out of the top of the steam generator and is blasted directly into the mighty turbines. This completes what engineers call a Rankine cycle, which is essentially a closed loop that converts heat into mechanical work. The steam violently spins the turbine blades, driving a generator to produce our electricity before heading to a condenser to be cooled back into liquid water and pumped right back to the steam generator to start the ride all over again. So why does this complex two-loop anatomy actually matter? Well, because the primary and secondary loops never physically touch, the secondary water and the resulting steam are entirely non-radioactive. This means the massive turbines and condensers in the power hall are not contaminated, it drastically reduces the radiation shielding required in the main building, and makes routine maintenance significantly easier and safer for the crew. And even with this strict separation, the whole system still achieves a highly respectable 32 to 33% overall thermal efficiency. This central heating analogy perfectly summarizes the beautiful thermal dynamics at play here. The intense nuclear stove is safely contained, moving its heat through pressurized fluid to the radiators, which safely boil the water we actually use for power. It's just a fantastic example of physics and mechanical engineering working together in perfect harmony. I really hope this explainer sheds some light on the sheer genius inside these boiling cauldrons. When you sit back and consider the flawless orchestration of extreme pressure, intense heat, and natural circulation happening inside a pressurized water reactor, it leaves you wondering, how will we adapt and evolve this incredible foundation to build even safer, more efficient energy grids for tomorrow? Thanks for hanging out with us, keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.
The view from here is breathtaking. Command, we are in position and ready for the next phase. If you liked the video, subscribe and comment the topic you want next. Thanks for watching, and stay unstoppable.